Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
Hey everybody, this is The Long War. I am your host tonight, Stephen Ford, aka Juicy J, and we've got the cast and crew, Kenny Boucher and Mike Haspel.
Yo, dog, great to be here.
Hold on.
Robbie B has got a feline catastrophe, a cat apocalypse. The compound is down in Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yeah, that is not good.
Mike Haspel, prepare them for their first 3 shots.
Yeah, that's right.
We are one man down, so if anybody else is following along with the game, that means it's time to start out the show with 3 drinks.
Because obviously we never have technical difficulties.
Never in the history of ever. Nothing that we can't fix with an Etch-a-Sketch, hot glue, and a dirty toilet paper roll.
And the dirty sheets McSkeets painting maneuver.
Yes, absolutely. So you've got us tonight, and Robbie B is here in spirit. So with that being said, how's your week been, guys?
I'll let Haspel tell us because I know he's been working on something super secret in his Beats lab.
Yeah, I'm working on some more stuff for the Bringing the Hobby Back tournament format. So the 2 things I'm working on right now are the Bringing the Hobby Back tournament guidebook, and it is a large part of it is a straight-up reprint, without permission, I might add, of the Games Workshop Rogue Trader Tournament guidebook from 2005. Which I'm updating so that it includes like the new because tournaments have changed a lot since then and how people do things. So I'm updating it from that, and then I'm also incorporating a lot of the lessons learned. Like for instance, just buy an entire bag of pens because you're going to lose them all. they're all going to be gone by the end of the day. And that was the lessons learned from us at Adepticon.
I love that segment right there. Lessons learned at a 40k tournament.
Yeah, just little things.
Inside the mind of a tournament player. Lessons learned edition.
Yo, true story. I will have to say there's some lessons that I will tell some people over some drinks that are not allowed to be printed.
Truth. So I'm working on that, and then I was working on adapting some interesting, like, different missions, just stuff that folks have not seen. We tend to play, whether you're playing the ITC or just playing the, other than Maelstrom, you tend to play exactly the same missions over and over again. So we're trying to do some stuff that would reward, on the one hand, it would reward an army that hits hard on turn 1 and turn 2. And then at the same time, we wanted a mission that rewarded armies with staying power that would last till turn 7. So we have, I'm working on and these are not play tested yet at all or anything, but the first mission I'm working on, you basically, both sides, and these are targeted towards 1850 points to start off with. So both sides would lose about 300 points. And that first mission is called Battle in Progress. So it's supposed to simulate that you've already been fighting, you're jumping in, and taking over basically in the middle of the battle. So each side loses 300 points of your choice, of units, and then you deploy up to halfway on the table. Where it starts to get weird is you only have to stay 12 inches away, but one side does not deploy all their stuff all at once. Essentially, it's going back to like 4th edition, where one side, whoever wins the deployment, deploys first. So they will take 1 unit and deploy it first. Now their opponent takes 1 unit and deploys it, and then you go back and forth until both sides are deployed.
So I really like that. So for people who haven't been playing and are ancient in the game as we 3 are, but there back in the day, that wasn't just like, I'm going to throw this character out, I'm going to throw this. There was stipulations to it. So it was like, it was actually heavy support troops, elites, HQs, and fast attacks.
And
that was
also, it wasn't 1 unit at a time. It was like you deployed all your heavies, right? And then
right.
Yes. So, and then that way, you actually got to, you were playing the game before the game started. And I really love that tacticalness about it. Haspel, just one question about that, the configuration and the mission style. Before the before I drop my 300 points, do I know my opponent's army?
Yeah, this would be like after you've swapped lists and stuff like that, and then it's like, okay, take 300 points out of your list. And it's like I'm trying to just experiment.
I have a suggestion right now. What if
Sure.
remember Tacticon back in the day where we had sidebars?
Right, and that's
imagine
exactly
if you
what I
just
was
said
thinking.
you have to provide your 1,800. Let's say 350 points are removed. Let's just say you have an 1,850 point army list and a 1,500 point army list of the same like units. No new units can be added.
Right.
Let's just say they had those. That's part of the tournament packet. Like what your 1,850 and your 1,500. And so that way you don't slow the tournament down with like this whole like what do I take out of the list? You've already pre-programmed a 1,500 point list.
Yeah, that probably works a lot better. Yeah, that's a good idea. And the idea for this first mission is that it only goes up to turn 4. It stops at bottom of turn 4. Game's over. And you get 2 hours to play that one. And then the middle mission is 2.5 hours, which is what people have been really given for 1850. That's been a kind of a tournament standard time that they use. And then the last mission is 3 hours long, uses progressive scoring of objectives, but you don't start scoring until turn 4. So it will go to turn 7.
So you have to have units alive. I like that because that's kind of an extension of the conversation we had here last week where Juice had brought up like a whole new way of playing the game based on time limit and turn counters, something no one's ever really thought of where, the first round always kind of takes the longest. People kind of got their shit together by the second round, and the third round is kind of like where it really matters because it's championship rounds. How do we translate that into a tournament packet and add tactics to the game? I think, Aspels, you're on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Test all of this, and if anybody has feedback, send it our way. I'm not trying to create these in a vacuum, so.
For sure, no, that's exactly where we want to be at, and I'm sure that after we play, it's just like anything. It's going to get better and it's going to evolve, but you know what? You always got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. So.
And we always got to try to feed the trolls a little bit as we go.
Yeah, give them something to hate us for. Yeah, we don't give them enough, really. Like
sometimes, yeah, because we've kind of gotten a little better at what we do. So we got to hit them with a little bit of the hate us because they ain't us.
Yeah.
I believe that's also in the Long War Drinking game, so I think that's worth a shot, guys.
It was. I want you to know. I wanted to throw that in there, followed by a little shake and bake Ricky Bobby style. That was a twofer. Wow. That was also that's 3 drinks. Wow, I just did that back to back to back. I love it.
No, man, it's been a good week though. Aside from that, we've updated the Hall of Veterans with a new download section, so you can already get the current Bringing Hobby War packet all in one place, all in one download, and that provides you with the tournament software, the missions, the scoring rubrics, everything to get started, and the debut of our 4-point Bringing Hobby Back score system. We only use 3 points of scoring at Adepticon, and we've already evolved it to being 4. Where now we've kind of taken comp, made it more comp, and broke out and made a theme score that the judges score you on. So now it's even more diverse. Look for that on the Hall of Veterans, thelongwar.net.
Yeah, that's because that was a quick evolution that we got from feedback from people, that they felt that the comp was too heavily weighted. So this was a way to mitigate that a little bit without taking away. Because, obviously, the reason we have comp in there is it kind of is a score your tabletop experience, which is subjective, and that, the only person that can really do that is your opponent, is the person you were playing with. So
yeah, and I hate it when people use that as a negative when they say, oh, that's just so subjective. It's like, yeah, it is, but I don't mean it like negatively. Everything in this game is subjective. Like everything you do in this game is subjective to a dice roll, a tape measure, the assumption of knowledge of rules. Like this, we play the world's most subjective game for 2.5 hours. Like everything's is subjective in this game, and so don't look at like one more subjective thing changing it. It would be weird if it was objective.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Also, this week we had a really good live stream. Obviously, we're Next Level Paintings on Twitch. So if you're subscribed to all veterans, like obviously you watch the videos weeks and weeks early. We got a whole new thing that we're testing, and that the Long War eventually is going to get into, because we just did our pre-sales on our dice bag. All sales are closed now. Like, we've closed the door on that. Production started. People, are going to get their bits bags and their infinite pimp bags of holding here really soon. But now we have developmental funds to get our mobile stream platform ready to where we can be doing some Twitch streams of live Warhammer 40k games, and maybe some X-Wing games, and maybe some other things that we haven't even discussed. And right now we have a pretty good model based on these live tutorials we're doing every Tuesday night on my time figuring this out. So obviously I was just with the task of figuring this out before I dragged everyone's time down together. Since basically I paint anyway all day every day, so like, hey, let's just put a camera on it and see if we can figure out this software. And I think we're coming to great places. Had a great time this week. We talked about Wu-Tang Clan. We talked about all sorts of funny things. Haspel was there. Robbie B was there. A lot of the veterans were there. It was great.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was very, very cool.
Yeah, I'm loving it, and we've had some more drops this week. FAQ drops, right?
Yeah, we've had a lot of things. I guess we can. That's a good segue for Mike Haspel to lead us in the world famous tabletop marketplace.
Okay. Yeah. Give me just a second. Grab my clipboard here. All right. So
he's so organized.
We've got actually a lot of stuff coming. The big news is some new plastic terrain kits coming from GW. And these are like storage crates, that kind of thing. They're obviously meant to be stacked when you see them. It's just basically some crates, good line of sight blocking. We don't know what rules they have. We don't know if they're like new fortifications. My gut feel is that they are just new terrain, and that they're not fortifications and stuff. But there's an interesting thing on there too, is if you look at the little pictures that have leaked, they actually have bolters like on the crates, which is hilarious because like in the Grimdark, everything has weapons.
even my crates have bolters. Even my bolters have bolters.
Yeah, it's like, so that's kind of funny. There was also another rumor that dropped. Well, it's more than a rumor. It's just we don't know when they're dropping. Is GW putting out some textured bases, which is not really a first for them, because they did have some bases. Like I think the
real limited though. They were like, "Yo, this HQ has this dope base. This Dreadnought for years had this base."
The Wraith Lord, the plastic Wraith Lord, had a textured base. There's a couple of other ones, but these are
half the Harlequins have textured bases.
Yeah, that's right.
So obviously they've been sitting on this for a while, and they're ready to start releasing faction specific bases. It seems.
There is no reason why they haven't gotten to this game before. They've finally seen how much money people are making in these resin cast bases. And now I'm not going to say this because let me tell you, there is so many phenomenal third-party, second-party base companies that are out there that do phenomenal stuff. But I want to say, as a blanket statement, I have yet to see on a consistent basis anybody who can match when GW puts their mind to something.
No, for real. Like, start upgrading your skills right now, because if GW wants to be in this market, they're gonna have some of the best stuff. And right now, if as long as it's not direct order only, these bases are looking to be pretty competitively priced on the market. Which means if they're not direct order only and they're plastic and everything, that almost every retailer on Earth will get them for you for 20% off, which might make them cheaper.
Yeah, and that is unbelievable, Kenny. Like, I can't even imagine GW getting into the game and we say get into the game. Obviously, you guys have already given scenarios where they've been doing this for a while now, but not on an individual basis, right? And for them to come into the game potentially, if not the same quality, if not better, at the same price, if not cheaper, that is unheard of on GW standards.
And I'll tell you right now, a plastic scenic base is going to be a whole lot easier to work with than a resin one. Like, I mean, I've never had a base from them not be just perfect.
Yeah, I mean, guys, let's look about it too. Like when you're talking about getting into the game, they got into the X-Acto knife game. and that motherfucker was like 400% over everybody else's X-Acto knives, right?
And we still bought them.
Everybody still bought them. They got into the tape measure game, okay, and that motherfucker was like $65 for a tape measure. Obviously, I'm exaggerating a little, but I mean,
not by much.
Yeah.
It has an Aquila on the side of it. I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah, right. So all I'm saying is if they get into this and it's anywhere near market value instead of super high inflated, I'm going to be impressed, and my banking account is going to be hurting.
Yeah, and I do need to, since we're talking about tape measures, I gotta pimp this. They came out with some like collectible or collector's edition or something, Age of Sigmar tape measure that I bought when I was out in Illinois before Adepticon. And that tape measure is the sweetest tape measure I have. So I'm like,
you were showing it off all Adepticon.
It's like it's heavy too. You can kill a man with it.
Yeah, you were the only one who brought extra tape measures, and you're like, you guys can use all these, but not this one.
No, that one's the only way I'm giving up that one is, and if GW, if you're listening, turn out a 40k one like that. They're just a gunmetal one with an Aquila on the side. I will buy it, and it'll be awesome.
Haspel, I want you to know what I really thought that was at first. I was like, what kind of Doctor Who device is this? You know?
It looks weird. It does look weird, you know?
Right? I was like, man, because you guys are on that Doctor Who stuff, and I was like, I feel like this is the key that gets you into the telephone booth.
Yeah, look at these nerds giggling over their stupid, sonic screwdriver. Oh, wait, that's a tape measure.
Oh, shit.
Then we've got let's see, so that's the release is kind of coming up, and we've got Captain don't forget that this weekend is if you're in the US, it is the 100 store celebration going on the 28th and 29th, and so you can pick up Captain Centos, which is a unique Space Marine model. Again, it's kind of a remake of the old model that they had put out for 100 stores, and I don't remember that guy's name right now, but it had something to do with 100. And this is kind of a remade one. Apparently, he will have his own rules as well, and you can either get one for free if you spend $100 in the store, which honestly, not that hard to do. And then you've got, or you can pick them up for $20. And at least locally, the stores here have kind of announced on their Facebook page that it's going to be one per customer. So there's no like rocking in there and going, hey, give me 10 of those mofos and I'm going to sell them on eBay.
Well, that's a way to do their due diligence a little bit, right? Like, I wonder if that was kind of communicated to them from their GW rep. Like, look, we're not going to tell you what to do, but it would be cool if you kind of to keep people from throwing shit on eBay, because they got a problem with eBay. They don't like that. I wonder if there was, a little hint drop there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or for like, now that you say it that way, it seems more like mandated.
Yeah, and these are, and just to clarify too, these are only available at the Games Workshop stores. So independent affiliates will theoretically not have this model.
Oh, so it was definitely mandated. That was the first email headline.
They got the memo.
I thought you were saying like I heard at first was all the stores, but no, just GW stores. Oh yeah.
Yeah, just GW stores, because I got to drive all the way up to Denver to go get this thing.
And you think about it, like those one-man stores, you can't blame that on another manager. Like, oh yeah, they didn't relay that message to me. It's like, nah, dog. You got the email. I saw the "you read" sticker, pop up.
And I feel that's probably a little bit lessons learned from the 30th anniversary Space Marine thing.
And and also additionally, I mean, from every other limited release they've ever put out, like people are getting paid on void shield generators for years.
Oh, and plasma obliterator, all that stuff, man. And then, okay, so you've got all that coming out, and then we've got Battle for Vedros, I think that's the way you say it, is coming out, going to hit the big box stores, but that's in like 2 weeks. And that's that new GW line that's targeted towards young bloods, I would say.
Kind of like the 40k light, perhaps. It's the 40k starter.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know what rules we're going to see in that, but it's supposed to be a lighter rule set for beginning players and for younger players. And these are the snap kits, Orcs and Space Marines that are coming, that where the plastic is already sort of dyed that initial color, where the Orcs come in green, the Space Marines come in blue. So that's kind of cool. And then the week after that, we get Lost Patrol, which is a re-release. Well, it's an update of an older game that they had that was like out in the mid to late 90s, I want to say. And it was a really cool little mini game. It's 5 scouts. You have these tiles that are the jungle. They're lost in the jungle, and it's essentially the get to the chopper kind of scenario from Predator. So you have these 5 scouts that are trying to get the heck out of there. Every turn you lay down the tiles, so you're creating the board as you play, so it's somewhat random every single time. And then in the old game, they had these like blips that would chase the scouts and kill them and everything like that. They have updated that to where they're just straight up gene stealers now. So it looks like it comes with a scout sprue and with like a gene stealer sprue, so you maybe get 8 gene stealers or maybe 10 gene stealers and 5 scouts, and then the tiles, and the retail on that I feel is pretty reasonable. It's about $60. So it's
and you get the tiles like you were saying.
Right. Yeah. So basically, they cover the cost of models and rules plus this tiles for free.
Yeah, and it's essentially a board game. I don't see anybody picking this thing up like Overkill or Betrayal at Calth just for the models. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's a board game with miniatures in it, So
yeah, that's awesome. I love anything and everything that has to do with that whole like aliens kind of scene of getting away, doing anything. Like I had a DM actually for a Dark Heresy campaign that he incorporated that kind of style twice into the game, and literally I lost my shit for it. So I'm gonna have to pick this up.
Yeah, and it's a fun game. It was fun. It plays very quickly. Like you're talking about a half hour, for a game session.
Oh, badass.
Yeah, so it's really cool.
Is it cooperative or competitive?
The old one was competitive.
So someone's gonna probably someone is bad guy, someone's good guy.
Yeah, yeah, and they encourage you like Space Hulk. You play the scenario and then switch sides and play again. And I remember it being fun, but I also remember not being able to play it a lot because I didn't have a copy. So I only played it like 2 or 3 times. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was Warhammer Total War, which dropped yesterday. I am a sucker for all the Total War games. And up until now, Creative Assembly, who makes the Total War games, have really stuck with historical stuff. They came out with like Shogun Total War, Medieval Total War. Shogun Total War obviously takes place in Japan. Medieval Total War was medieval Europe, and it went from like essentially Dark Ages to early modern warfare where you get arquebuses and just very early gunpowder. They did Empire Total War, which was like American Revolution and Napoleonic's era, which honestly that game, the sea battles in that game were such a blast. It was amazing. They did Rome Total War, which was my absolute favorite, which is obviously Roman Empire. And they had it broken up by, early Roman, late Roman Empire, different stuff like that, different units that are available. And then now this is their first foray into really made up stuff, Warhammer Total War. And I think last week I mentioned that they also had kind of some issues with releasing stuff that was a little bit buggy on the initial release. Well, it looks like Warhammer Total War, I think they learned their lesson. I only managed to play for an hour and a half yesterday. I played as the vampire counts, and it was an absolute blast. Just a whole lot of fun. It honestly reminded me a lot of Rome Total War. It has a lot of similarities. Like I didn't have to really go through the tutorials. I just went and started playing it. And this is coming from somebody who I really did not play the tabletop version of Warhammer Fantasy. I'm familiar with the units, I'm familiar with the armies, but I never really played them. So when you pick up the game, and actually if you pick it up through the end of the week, you will also get the Chaos Warriors, which is the first DLC, which should have been included.
Oh damn! You get that? Yeah, they do that all day now. They come up with all the DLCs ahead of time. They're already in the game, and now you unlock them with codes. It's like, you mean you already made this all? It should have just been in the game.
So if you buy it now, you get essentially the first DLC for free. It gets included, and that's the Chaos Warriors. It also came with the Empire, dwarves, vampire counts, and orcs, or who they call greenskins, because it's goblins and orcs. And I obviously, like I said, I just played as the vampire counts, and it immediately puts you right into the fluff, immediately has a great, you feel like you're playing the vampire counts. They have unique rules, like for instance, the undead units don't rout. They call it crumbling. So they stay there, but they kind of erode faster than they normally would. Whereas they would normally just retreat. Like an Empire unit, you can actually break the morale and they'll fall back. The undead guys won't do that. So it was really neat to see that, how that worked. I'm enjoying it. It looks really cool. It also looks like a massive time sink. So I'm going to be staying off of it.
Well, the old time vampire.
Oh, it's bad. It's bad. And I'm like halfway through my Battlefleet Gothic, campaign. So I'm like, I kind of need to finish Battlefleet Gothic.
I'm fucking up.
Yeah, I'm like, there's for once I'm having a problem. There's too many good Warhammer games out all at once. So I encourage people, if you did like Warhammer Fantasy, if you want to, get that feeling again, and you have a good PC, because it is going to hurt your machine, I would recommend picking up Warhammer Total War, for sure.
Yeah, and to be honest, I actually was asking you earlier, Haspel, was like, is this on a gaming console or is it just for PC? Because let me tell you, that game sounds amazing, and I was able to watch some of those trailers. It literally looked like I was watching, a movie. With the fight scenes, with the flyovers. It takes the regiment fighting to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you remember, and granted, obviously the graphics would be way better in a movie, but if you remember the big, massive battles from Lord of the Rings, that's what this game looks like. Exactly.
That's exactly how I felt watching it.
So it's really, really cool.
Hey, before we move on to the tabletop, or excuse me, the webcast recap, I have a question, and this is just kind of hobbies related, but not 40k at all. Do you guys feel that with all the new age and the trilogies and stuff that are out there, what do you think the new excuse me, I'm sorry, I lost it. What is the stuff that everybody plays online? With trolls, orcs, how can I not League of Legends? World of Warcraft, yeah, I apologize. It took me forever on that. But the new movies that they're coming out, I've never played WoW, World of Warcraft at all. Never been really anything into it, but after watching that, the trailers, I feel like it's Lord of the Rings or anything all over again. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed on it, only because, like, the only Warcraft I played was the RTS that came out, the StarCraft fantasy Warcraft,
glittering prizes. That was the cheat code to get everything, to get like 100,000. I played that back in the day too, by the way.
Was that the game that had Ba Ramu? Like if you clicked on the sheet like too many times, they said Ba Ramu.
Yes.
Yeah, so I played that. When I see the trailer, I'm not entirely sure what I'm watching. But it looks awesome. You know what I mean? Like I can't say, oh, this is from that module or whatever. I'm just like, obviously it looks badass. It looks like a cool fantasy film, and it's Weta. Weta Digital that's the same guys that did Lord of the Rings. So
that's the same crew?
That's the same. Yeah, the same.
Is it Blizzard
House.
Is Blizzard producing it and everything?
Yeah, I think in concert with the studio, because that's a lot of dollars. I mean, this is.
I mean, obviously, you don't, like, rule one, you don't put up your own money when you're making a movie, you know. But
yeah.
So I would be shocked. I mean, I don't know why, if they can get World of Warcraft into the movie theaters, they better be getting a real Space Marine movie in the theaters.
Well, here's the thing, because I was actually having this conversation just the other day, and it's like the Warcraft has a ridiculous number of subscribers. You know, WoW does.
It was at like 10 million at one point. It might have gone under that, but it's still got to be almost double-digit millions at least, right?
Yeah, and so many people have played it, even if they're not playing it anymore, that it dwarfs the numbers of people who played Warhammer Fantasy or 40k. But I'm with you. I really want like a 40k movie, like a real 40k movie. And so I don't know. Cross your fingers. Hope that this WoW movie does well. And I mean, they're doing that. They're doing Assassin's Creed. So it seems like Hollywood's coming back around to video game adaptation movies, and hopefully they learn their lesson from all the crappy ones that they made before, and stick closer to the source material and actually make some decent films. So.
Not bad. Let's do a quick roll call. Let's do this webcast recap shout out before we hit our commercial break, and then obviously finally touch on the subject everyone wants us to talk about.
Sure thing. Yeah, we had a lot of shout outs that we had to do, and we were not able to do it. So I'm just going to run down a bunch of names here. John Parmenter, Felix, Stoner Steve, of course. Zach Bowles was checking in. Evan Van Dyke, Chris McMiles, Mitch Greer, Lamont, Charles Hook, Stephen Green, and CLM No Name, that was his first time joining in on a webcast. So welcome to everybody, and I'm sorry we weren't able to get to you guys during the actual webcast. I do have a couple questions that not a super long webcast recap today. Lamont was asking, do we see Death from the Skies being adopted by TOs, or is it going to be ignored because of the dogfight phase?
I think the ITC is going to allow it. Just fun,
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
I've got a little insider info on the subject, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to allow it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's allowed. It has to be allowed at this point because it does change the rules for flyers. The dogfight phase, I played the last week. I played a game where we deliberately tried to do as much of the dogfight phase as we could. In my opinion, it was very little value added. I lost a flyer in the dogfight phase. I got one of mine shot down, so he never made it onto the board. But it was very little value added. I think I need to play it a little bit more to conclusively say that it's kind of worthless.
Yeah.
But my gut feeling is just skip the dogfight phase, use all the other rules.
No doubt. It's almost like you were saying. It's like, I mean, before we were saying, it always sucks when, like, oh, you blew up one of my models that's not on the table.
Yeah.
Well, that was great.
Yeah, it's like a little mini game. I think if you're playing for fun, then absolutely, because it's a fun little mini game, where you're trying to second guess what the other guy's going to do, and I used a couple D3s. We held in our palms, put them down on the table. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. Oh no, man, like you're right on my tail, and he shot me down, and it was cool. But for a tournament, I think it bogs down the game a little bit too much. So I foresee that they'll just say, like, skip the dogfight phase, but keep all the other. And that's the optional rule anyway. So
and that's obviously just a prediction, Lamont. We don't know.
Yeah, and then Evan was making an observation saying that these crates that are dropping. Now, granted, we don't have the rules yet, but he said these crates might be better than rhinos because if you can get in them and they block line of sight.
Shifting worldscape or whatever.
Yeah, and then using geokinesis of the shifting worldscape, you could actually move them around, and because they're terrain, they might be indestructible. Like, they may not have hull points and stuff.
Yeah, and they have bolters on them, right?
Yeah, so they could be better than rhinos, which is a little bit crazy.
The old Magneto B-boy stance attack.
Yeah, because then I guess because it's not a vehicle, you might even be able to assault out of it. But then it would be probably a building or something.
Yeah, I mean, like if it's got one, I mean, you can depending on how you want to move your guys around. You can be like, over here we're just hiding, over here we're just assaulting.
Yeah,
like flipping the gate over, whatever.
But yeah, that wraps up the webcast recap real quick, since we spent a little bit too much time on the tabletop marketplace.
Without Rob B here, we can do whatever we want. But I guess we have to do this commercial break because he just texted me that if we don't do a commercial break, he'll be mad at me.
Dear veterans, quickly, make your way to thelongwar.net and find out how to reap your hard-earned spoils of this long war. For our allies at secretweaponsminiatures.com have rewarded us all with an extra 10% discount on all Secret Weapon Miniatures merchandise. So stock up, dear veterans, and enjoy.
And we're back. You guys ready for the meats and the potatoes?
Yeah, always ready for the meat.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Ready to go to Wendy's after this?
That never gets old.
Oh, no, it hasn't been. I mean, literally 10 years I've been saying that. I still can't get enough of it. It's just really hard to get Bonet to answer me when I say I want to go to Wendy's.
Say she's heard this one or two times.
She's like, yo, it's been 10 years. Stop talking. And so I guess tonight's episode is free units, good or bad for the hobby, good or bad for 40k. And obviously that is a question that is directly aimed at Gladius Strike Force and War Convocations and all these Space Wolf things that have come out recently, in which an army list gets free upgrades, free units galore including their army list.
Yeah. And I feel we kind of need to draw a distinction, because this came up in the webcast recap as well, or not the recap, but the webcast, that like units like Khorne Demonkin that can summon free stuff, or demons themselves that can, or actually everybody now who can use demonology to summon free units. This is not what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's not free. You paid for the psychic powers. You had to roll. There was a chance you failed. We're talking before you even showed up to the game, you had hundreds of points and things that you normally would have to pay for that you didn't, because you chose this formation that GW so kindly wrote for you to use with no ulterior motive whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'd like to throw another caveat on before we give our answers, what we think yes or no, or good or bad. This also has there's the Blood Angel formation, right? That gives all Stern Guard and Vanguard upgraded.
Yeah, that was kind of one of the first ones we
this.
looked at. Yeah, you got free lightning claws and free combi weapons or some shit.
So I would like to say that we cannot look at this as a blanket statement. I want to look at it on a point-by-point basis, and this is why I posed the question at the end of the webcast, is the War Convocation, is the Gladius Strike Force, is it as good because it's 400 points or 500 points for the free stuff? Are you telling me orcs, if orcs have formations where they were getting 400 points for the free stuff, would they be good? We have yet to seen a single Blood Angel formation where all your Vanguard and Stern Guard get upgraded weapons.
No, it's a good point. It's a good point because it's a great question, because War Convocation might be the only truly tournament winning, version of that list. Like, you don't see a lot of non-war convos getting in the top 6, getting top 8, But
That's
Space
true.
Marines, however, they're getting top 8 finishes all the time with units that have nothing to do with the Gladius Strike Force, aka Space Marine Death Star. The basis of which is Codex Space Marines.
That's a great point, and because a lot of things. So either to the point, I believe that you have to look at power levels after this and this, but ultimately, free stuff, in my opinion, that amount of points, we could go as far to say is it's almost kind of like testing the waters in 40k for just removing points in general, because you are literally playing at a 300 to 600 point advantage. That's like saying I'm playing with all my models.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah, I won't go that far.
It's like playing halfway. Your foot is halfway in the door of Age of Sigmar, and that is a mechanic that is pretty much destroyed, profits this last year for GW. That is a losing model, and some of that model is in 40k. Now the fact that it's only partially in 40k is why it's fine, and we're so competitive. 40k players are so competitive. My caveat would be, free units, free upgrades, good or bad for competitive 40k. And I would have to. I mean, it's hard for me to not. It's hard for me not to say no. Like or yes, like they are bad. I think they're bad for Warhammer 40k competition because it is creating a curve that is in direct violation of kind of the sanctity of a tournament, which is we agree on a point level and we play that point level.
Yeah, I have to agree on that. That I would say it's great for the hobby. Like, yes, it is good for the hobby because it allows you to do stuff you wouldn't normally be allowed to do, but that it is bad for tournament play for two reasons. One, that it violates the, hey, we're supposed to be starting on a somewhat, it's never going to be balanced, but it's somewhat supposed to be a level playing field.
We can balance one thing. We only have the power to balance one thing in this hobby, in this game.
Absolutely, Kenny.
And that's points.
Points.
Yeah, so we're supposed to be starting on that, and then the other way I think it hurts tournaments is that, and this has become a wide complaint in the last couple of months, that people are not having enough time to finish their games, and that's time management has always been critical in tournament play, but now it's getting bad. Well, it's like, well, you guys aren't playing 1850, you're playing 2250. I mean,
imagine if I told you, let's do a 1850 point tournament, but everyone gets to bring 300 extra points and stuff. Well, why do you say 1850 instead of the real number? Oh, it's not like that. It's different. Like remember everyone got mad at Aaron Erlong because he was 1 point over on his list by accident.
Right.
At Adepticon, it's like he was 1 point over on his list. But he was playing against people who were allowed to be up to 600 points over in the list.
Yeah, but true story, 2 of the other 4 players that made it in the top 4 or top 5 had anywhere between 300 and 500 points extra. Absolutely. I want to agree. I don't know if they belong in the game, but I'm going to be devil's advocate, even though I would like to also put my opinions on both sides of it. Okay, I believe that it is bad for hobbying and regular game, period. It doesn't matter because the hobbying aspect, the hobby play, is supposed to be friendly and competitive or not competitive, this and this. If you bring a list like that where all of a sudden we're playing at my house for my one Thursday game a month, and that is not cool or kosher.
You're playing a war combo, and there's only one way to play a war combo. You know what I mean? And this is what it is, and it has a lot of shots at low AP, and it has a lot of things that piss you off. And it is brutal. There's no soft version of that list.
Absolutely. So, and it's kind of like Gladius or things. It's a hidden competitiveness, in it where I used in the webcast tonight the example of, do you want to well, I digress. I don't want to go into that too far much, but I want to stay on, are free units exactly good or bad for the game? I would like to say across the board, no, right? They're not good for the game. But I also want to say that I can see scenarios where people who are not playing free units or that are playing those armies will say their immediate response is, well, what about armies that move 17 times in the game? For example, Eldar. They're slowing the game down. They have 1850 points, but they're moving models because of the movement phase, the shooting phase they get to run, and then jetpack phase and the assault phase they move. They're literally moving their models as if it was a 4,000 point army, right? Or people that are shooting more in the game. So each army, even though these guys have extra points, other armies have extra this that give them a competitive balance or a competitive edge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the nature of rules writing, though. Like some reason to play this army over this army because it fits to your style of play. You like shooting more, you play this, but they don't assault at all. You like assaulting more, you play this because they don't shoot at all. There's always been that element of the game. Not, now I want to play an army that takes advantage of 1,000 special rules, which is like kind of what things like formations. That's typically what they give you, 1,000 special rules. That's rules writing. But like I can't remember an edition where it was just like, yo, you get all this free stuff. Like you get free rounds, you get free.
And I think where it hurts, at least, and I'm not all that familiar with the War Convocation and stuff. I'm familiar with the Space Wolves stuff that gets free. And this is one of the things I noticed right when it came out, and I was super excited about it because I was like, well, I can take the Black Mains, I can take all these drop pods. There's no tax. So I got to take some Blood Claws. That's the tax. I'm going to use those guys anyway. You know what I mean? It's like there is no tax to it. There's no. Well, normally I would never use this unit, and they're awful. They're terrible. Even in the formation, they're terrible. But if I take them, that unlocks this good thing. So I will have this kind of worthless unit, and they can sit back and hold an objective or something like that while what they unlock does business. But a lot of these things don't have a tax.
Yeah, that's a great point.
If you take that detachment, you get it.
I'd like to see the tax change because you're right. Taxes are kind of one of the problems I think innately with formations in general, because if that's where it becomes a business move versus a rules move. Because it's obviously like, yeah, we made all these models. Let's force them to buy some of the models we don't sell as much of. For example, like that Orc one that came out that was really cool, where the knobs got to swing in both turns. But they made you take a Death Dread. Like nobody takes that. But I was like, okay, that is still a weird tax. I'd rather have special rules. Remember the old Army of Death back in the day, where everything was 25% more expensive than Blood Angels?
Yeah.
I'd like to just see us pay for our rules. Like it's a point system. I like us to they've done it twice to us. They've said, here's free units, here's all your rules for free, and a business tax.
Yeah.
That's like double and pound. That's like compounding, like bad rules in my opinion.
And Kenny, one thing, we've talked about it before. What if you look at an Eldar army, right? The average, very competitive Eldar army that has builds of Warp Fighters, Jet Bikes, Wraith Knight. If you actually look at what they do, pound for pound, point for point, with their special rules versus other people in the game, how many free points are they actually getting?
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying. That's rules. That's codex. The reason a codex is supposed to give you something spicy for a good deal. Now, a formation is giving you even more spice on top. And there needs to be a tax, like Haspel was saying. I would prefer to see those taxes be now you're paying for something versus a shitty unit that you can use to hold an objective in the backfields, but not necessarily a model you normally would ever care about. To me, it's just like a kind of an interesting thing. Like as every edition of Warhammer 40k comes, you have to make every unit in the codex kind of better than it was before. Devastator squads have to be better than they used to be. Tactical Marines have to be better than they used to be, or you're going backwards.
That's a great point. Yeah. I would also like to say I completely agree. And would you guys think that maybe they just took the easy road out? At least with Eldar, it's built in. They wrote fluff behind it. They this, right? So they're super powerful, but they just didn't hit the easy button to say it's free. This. Do you feel like maybe we wouldn't care so much if it was actually built in to their codex, built into whatever, instead of just saying, hey, here's 450 free points?
Oh man, you gave me a great idea. Like what I would love to see, like Warp Spiders be like 200 points a unit, right? Just as an example. But I'd like to see the Warp Spider formation be like now they're 180 points a unit because you had to take this blah. That would be kind of interesting way to write the rule. Oh, here it is. You are taking it like reverse. Instead of you get all the stuff for free and this model for free, or this model for free and this tax. I'd like to see, because you have been taxed on a unit that's not that amazing, but it has thematic value to the list and the fluff, because you have taken this unit and you've purchased this model, I now reward you by giving you a discount.
Right.
On these things.
And I do like this kind of getting to what I don't think they did like an easy mode. Hey, this is all just for free. The examples I'm going to use are like the Space Wolf stuff, specifically the Black Mains, because that's the army that I'm playing currently, which comes with some 200 some odd extra points of free drop pods, plus with a very, very powerful rule that all your drop pods drop the turn one. They all come in. You don't even have to roll for them. So the business with all death from the skies being -2 reserves and all that, I don't even care. But it does change the way I play my Space Wolves. It forced me to change the way that I play my Space Wolves because it's a very specific type of build. You know, you're not doing the Thunderwolf thing anymore if you're playing the Black Mains. It just kind of doesn't work, you know. So
no doubt.
So I'm in favor of formations giving you stuff to change the way an army plays in the meta, for instance, you know.
Yeah, kind of give you. I like the idea of them giving you something cool to represent a storyline. You know, because we don't do it. Like, we pretend to, oh, check out my Nurgle army. Dog, nothing about that army except the fact that you have Nurgle units in it makes it thematic whatsoever to the storyline and the story arcs of Nurgle. Like, I used to play in 3rd and 4th edition, like our 3rd edition, my Rhino Rush Death Guard, like all Rhinos, all Death Guard, all these Power Fists, all these Sorcerers, like all this stuff, right? And I would go to these tournaments because 3rd edition people were still a lot more like thematically oriented, and people were like, that is just such a stupid army. I get bad comp scores, everything. I was like, why? It's all Nurgle, man. They're like, dude, have you read one thing about Nurgle? They fight on their feet. They're bolter. They shoot. They shoot their bolters. They do this. They do that. Like, you've literally exploited like the Rhino Rush, which is like you can move 12 inches, get out, and then charge 6 inches. You're just doing that. You're nothing about your army's thematic. So I do like a formation that makes it thematic to a storyline, and like, hey, here's units that these guys do. This is what these guys do. Let's play that, you know. So I do like that element, like these units that you omitted on purpose from your list because you don't like them, they're not point effective, you now have to take. So that does kind of like make me like it on that level if they made it very defined.
Yeah. And to kind of get back to what Juice started off with the whole, you know, are these formations good because they get a bunch of free stuff? I feel like some of them have to be because you're playing at it's a handicap. You know what I mean? And you're playing with like, for instance, my Black Mains, I'm playing with an extra 200 and, you know, some odd points there that I didn't have to pay for. Now, if I paid for them, that means that one of my Weird Storm Brotherhoods is gone because I just can't afford it. And one of the tournaments around here, local, friendly local game store, what they did is they said, hey, these like, you can bring those formations, but you have to pay for the extra stuff. So they didn't like just negate your army by going, hey, Mike, you don't bother bringing your Black Mains. We're not allowing it. He's just saying, yeah, you have 7 drop pods. You got to pay for that stuff, which now means that per the printed rules, I'm bringing like a 1,500 point list. So it does change the dynamic quite a bit.
Yeah, and you want to know, you guys there have done, I would say they've done their due diligence on trying to keep up with keeping things in line, right? With problems, with whatnot, that's actually going on and relevant in the game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, you're totally right about that. That's kind of an interesting point Haspel just made about that paying for those free points. Like, I keep getting torn on this conversation, like hearing the goods and the bads, because now I'm like, you get so like I'm back to like, damn, but you get this whole special rule of like we come down turn 1, we get all this feel no pain, we get all this preferred enemy stuff. Like, you get all these special rules. Like, do you really need the free drop pods too?
Right.
Like,
it's
if you want
really
to play
cool,
if you want to play a drop pod army, this is the way you play it because all your drop pods come down on turn 1. Like,
yeah, and it's really cool, and it forces you into taking certain units. But aside from, I mean, these are units that frankly I was going to use anyway.
Yeah, so that's my thing too. What's so good and powerful about Gladius isn't only the fact that they get a minimum of 300 free points in Rhinos Razorbacks, is the entire army is objective secured. The entire. So you're telling me if this formation, like if we just look at it, if we cut it in half, would you take this formation just for the free Rhinos and Razorbacks, not the objective secure bit? And or wouldn't you just take it if your entire army was objective secured?
It wouldn't win nearly as many games if it didn't have that special rule. Like, that special rule, like, because it's 2 demi companies, right? Demi company is in there, right? And you only get the free upgrades when you turn it into a battle company by taking 2 demi companies and having one with a chaplain and one with a captain. at that moment, your transports become free. Your rhinos, your razorbacks, and your drop pods. And it's like, wait, I feel like I had enough special rules to justify this anyway. And,
before the free upgrades.
Because the Demi Company was already good by itself. So that is a huge boon to that army, because like the one drawback from a combo and the Black Mains is they're not objective secure. And this army gives you all the benefits, plus all the tactical, plus all the Space Marine combat doctrines for the whole formation. Then each Demi Company gets the tactical doctrine. And if you take Ultramarines, you all have all three again. So you now damn, that's a lot of special rules for them to also give you free transports. That's a really interesting formation.
Yeah, but see, now I'm kind of torn too, because that's why I kind of feel that it's good for the hobby, but bad for competitive 40k, because it does force a certain type of a play style. It's like, hey, these are the way Marine Battle Company is supposed to.
Yeah, you know what? In a competitive environment, with no one trying to exploit the rules, Gladiator Strike Force will teach you real good tactics. It'll teach you to be comfortable with losing units, distracting people with units, and throwing away units. It'll teach you how to double down and put enough force on a target to kill it, and it'll teach you how to hold back and win the game in the last few turns. It'll teach you some good core fundamentals, but it's like riding a bike with training wheels. Like, you're learning how to ride your bike with training wheels, and then you take your training wheels off and you're playing actual AT-50.
Yeah.
I can see that. But the second a competitive player gets their hands on it, so how can I exploit this? And they do.
Yeah, and this really got hammered home to me because I've been playing Black Main since Curse of the Wolfen came out. Last week I went down to the friendly local game store with some flyers and stuff to do Death from the Skies, but I was running my Grey Knights and Sisters build, which, guess what, doesn't have any free stuff, doesn't have anything. You know what I mean? And it was like, why is 40k so hard again? You know what I mean? Like, why can't I execute? Why can't I make this stuff happen? Why aren't units working anymore? And it's like, well, because you don't get a free Weird Storm Brotherhood, essentially. You know what I mean? That can put out some, 14 plus shots that on sixes or extra hits. That's
devastating firepower. Yeah.
You come to rely on that kind of stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm playing. This is on expert again.
It's like an infinite range, even more shots that hit on a better weapon skill or ballistic skill than a broadside unit.
Yeah. Yeah, so it just kind of reinforced that it was just like, yeah, I'm not even. At first, it just sounds like, oh well, it's just free drop pods, and the drop pods really don't do anything. They're Stormbolter or whatever. It's not a big deal. But it turns out it is a big deal. It makes a very big difference.
Turns out every free thing you have in your army means something.
Yeah, and if you look at it with free stuff too, it's like these war gears and preferred enemy and stuff like that, those can be equated to a point value, and so when you're literally getting free stuff, like it's a massive game changer. But I guess my only problem with it is, again, it's a fairness thing. If every army, hopefully GW will get it through maybe by the calendar year or whatever, but I feel like Nid should have it, Orc should have it, all these other armies should have something that gives them, free stuff at least, right? So there's no way to play level playing field, and I'm not saying that at all.
If the truck was free, truck boys matter.
Yes, absolutely.
Like straight up. Like, I play them.
Are you telling me that there was a formation that if you took 3 units of Defcoptus, they got all their upgrades for free? You wouldn't shit yourself?
No, I'm shitting myself right now just thinking about it, man.
Right? Like, you're telling me that's 60 points in upgrades, right? Like 25 plus the rocket. That's 45 points in upgrades.
That is a fairness thing. They give these rules out completely unfairly. And to touch on Haspel's earlier point with these special rules, in our Beats lab, when we make armies, like that's all we look at is we look at the combination of special rules to point efficiency. Like, am I willing to pay this much points for these special rules? And you know, and so like you that's the use, like you're like, what are the special rules I want, and how much am I willing to pay for it? Some of these formations make that easy for you.
Yeah.
And see, I almost sorry, Juice, go ahead.
No, go right ahead, Haskell.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I'm like, if GW is listening, you almost need to come out with a supplement that just has special rules. Like, you could call them stratagems, like you did in Apocalypse, and then they have a points cost. And then people could just buy, hey, all my drop pods come in turn 1. And my guys get, a 6-up, feel no pain on the turn that they come in, but it costs 100 points.
Oh, my God.
I love Oh, man, I love that, Haskell. Like, matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to channel my inner Robbie B right now, but 30K, if I'm not mistaken, has that, where...
That's true. Your super dude can take some stuff to make your whole army. Yeah,
it's like we're our army-wide special rules of saying, all right, if you're a tank company, you cannot stipulations, you cannot arrive via drop pods, this and this, but all your vehicles get this, get that, a list of rules, and they had this multiple times through. So now we're saying that we've seen under 2 circumstances that GW and affiliates, sister companies, have put this into play. So it would be amazing if we could see this, in the day-to-day 40K realm.
Oh, man, I love that idea of getting that little pamphlet, the stratagems and relics.
Yeah, I feel like that's more dollars, more money.
Because, GW obviously has a really outdated, chart of what wounds to save to weapon skill profiles.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's terrible. You know what I mean? They're like, 3 wounds and a 3-up armor save and weapon skill 5, a 4 vulnerable is this many points. Then how do you justify this? Wraith Knight.
Yeah, tell me, please let us know what algorithm you use to make Wraith Knight. Let us know, please, because I would also like to know what the hell else was made with that configuration. I don't think it's anything. that asshole has been fired, or he is now the president, But either way, I also would like to finish this by saying I am not complaining about all these free units in the game. We're just looking at something objectively, talking about units, talking about the effects of 40K. I absolutely love where the game is at. I love playing where the game is at. I will say that there is as big of a paper, rock, scissors of who's going to win a 40K compared to 40K game now than there has been in the last 3 years, maybe since the beginning of 5th. I can't tell you right now that Eldar is going to win every event. They're going to be at every event, and they're going to do great.
The only thing that Eldar is guaranteed to do is piss me off every game.
Yes, but in 6th edition, it was Eldar Tau. I swear to God, you couldn't really almost win a game if it wasn't those 2, right? I could even say in 5th edition, it was like there was a powerhouse of 3 or 4 of Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Grey Knights, But right now, I would say with the armies having free points, with Eldar being so powerful, I think this is the most competitive 40K has been in a long time.
It's really cool, and I will hypocritically continue to play my black mains with my free drop pods.
And it's like we're torn. I'm like, there's no like I'm torn on this subject. I'm not even I'm like parts of this piss me off, but parts of it don't.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like normally, you guys know I'm gonna make a harsh stance one way or the other, but I harshly don't agree with free points. But I have to play my own devil's advocate by saying, hey, there is 4 other list builds right now that don't have free points attached to them, but those motherfuckers are playing at a 500 point, based
on the paper scissors rock matchup. And I guess I'm resentful because I spend so much of my time trying to come up with ways to be point efficient that when formation comes out that just is point efficient because it exists, I think I just get resentful. Like, God damn it, I've been busting my ass trying to come up with this super sweet ass mix, and then this shit comes out, So I think that's where I'm at. And I guess, with the question we asked, is it bad or is it good? Just, leave comments, hit us up on iTunes, man. Just drop some comments off, hit us up on Facebook. because we don't know how we feel about it. Maybe you guys do.
Yeah, definitely conflicted. Definitely.
Well, guys, I feel like we have found our way at the end of this hour, and it has flown by as it usually does here on Wednesday nights. Stop what you're doing. Head over to longwar.net. Click out, check out all the stuff, cool shit that we got going on. Kenny has broke into live Twitch streaming. He is going to become a guru at that, so we can convert some of that over to the Long War.
Check it out every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern for you guys on the East Coast. And the Mountain Time doesn't exist.
That's right.
Check out thelongwar.net. Become a member of the Hall of Veterans today for the fastest growing library of wargame-related video content, modeling, painting, and playing. Not to mention all the sick discounts I receive from some of our sponsors. TheLongwar.net is committed to bringing hobby back, and we can't do it without you.